Do you remember this? Those dreaded days in elementary school. You're all lining up in the hallway, and the school nurse is there with her little comb, checking everyone's head. For most of us, that's kind of where the whole life story starts and pretty much stops. But it brings up a really great question. Why does this itchy little problem feel like it's almost exclusively a childhood memory?
All right, let's dive right in. This question, which actually popped up on Reddit, is at the very heart of our mystery today. On the surface, it seems so simple, right? But the answer is this really fascinating mix of biology, the way we act, and even the school environment itself. Because, while adults can get lice, it is way, way less common. So what is it that makes a kid's head the absolute perfect real estate for these things? So before we can even begin to solve this mystery, we have to get to know our culprit. Let's meet the six-legged suspect at the center of all this scratching, the head louse. Okay, so here it is, Pediculus humanus capitis. That's the fancy scientific name. And the CDC is really clear about this. This isn't some germ, and it's definitely not a sign of being unclean. It's a parasitic insect that's been evolving right alongside humans for literally thousands of years. Its entire world is the human head, and its only food source is our blood. And you've got to understand, they are tiny. An adult louse is only about 2 to 3 millimeters long. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the size of a single sesame seed. And that small size is really the key to their stealth, It lets them hide out in our hair, often totally unnoticed until the itching finally kicks in. And just look at how fast their life cycle is. An egg, which is called a nit, hatches in about a week. Just 1 week later, that baby louse is a full-grown adult. And then, a single female can lay around 6 new eggs every single day for a month. You can see how a really small problem can just explode in no time at all. So we've got this tiny, super fast-breeding insect. But how does it actually get around? And why is the school playground the perfect travel hub for them? Let's break down exactly how they spread. Okay, first things first, let's bust a huge myth. Despite what you might have heard growing up, head lice do not have wings. They absolutely cannot fly from one person to another. And they don't have those powerful back legs like a flea, so no, they can't hop either. This is the key to everything. They are crawlers. They can't fly, they can't jump, they can only crawl. And that one simple fact explains almost everything about why kids are the ones who get them. For a louse to find a new home, it needs a direct bridge to walk across. And where do you find those bridges? Well, they are everywhere in a kid's world. I mean, just think about it. Kids have a totally different concept of personal space. They're always huddling together, whispering secrets, playing games that involve tons of head-to-head contact. Plus, they share everything. Hats, scarves, brushes, and they pile all their coats together in shared cubbies. It's basically a public transit system designed for lice. And you can see this behavior reflected directly in the data. According to the CDC, in the US alone, a staggering 6 to 12 million infestations happen every single year. And they're overwhelmingly among kids between 3 and 11 years old. As kids get older and, become more independent, that risk just drops dramatically. But wait, because there's actually more to this story. While behavior is definitely the number one reason, it's not the only one. Turns out there are some biological factors that can make certain people a much more attractive target than others. So a 2024 study in the Open Public Health Journal actually found that the single most significant physical factor is just hair length. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Longer hair, or thicker or curlier hair, simply gives lice more cover, more warmth, and way more places to grab on and lay their eggs. Okay. But what if I told you the answer might be even deeper, even weirder than that? What if the reason you never got lice, but your brother or sister always did, actually came down to your blood type? So check this out, because this is wild. There's a theory, and it's highlighted by the service Lice Doctors, that a louse actually can't survive if it switches between blood with a different Rh factor, the positive or negative part of your blood type. So if a louse that's been feeding on Rh positive blood moves to someone with Rh negative blood, its digestive system literally explodes. It's a pretty gruesome but fascinating idea that could be a hidden defense mechanism for some of us. Okay, so with all this new information in our back pocket, let's clear up a few more myths and talk about what actually works when it comes to prevention. The absolute biggest stigma around lice is that it's a sign of being dirty. This is 100% false. In fact, some evidence suggests lice might find it easier to attach their eggs to clean hair shafts because they aren't slick with natural oils. An infestation has absolutely nothing to do with hygiene.
So, what does the CDC actually recommend we do? Well, it all comes back to breaking that chain of transmission. The main advice really focuses on behavior, teaching kids to avoid that head to head contact and not to share things like brushes or hats. And if an infestation does happen, it's all about cleaning, washing items in very hot water, and vacuuming to stop the spread in its tracks.
So, the final answer to our big mystery is that it's a perfect storm. It's this unique combination of kids' social behavior, the close quarters environment you find in schools, and, yeah, biological factors like hair length that all come together to make elementary school the golden age of head lice. You know, it's so easy to just have that gut reaction and say, ew. But when you really break it down, the head loss is a pretty remarkable example of evolution. It tells a story about our own biology and how our social lives change as we grow up. So maybe next time you'll see it a little less as something gross and a little more as a genuinely fascinating biological mystery.